We will call the March meeting of the Planning Commission to order. If you'd all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all so much. We have a couple oaths of office tonight. Hello.
Good evening. Ms. Young and Dr. Forgy, if you could please stand and raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Joe Forgy,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana.
and that I will faithfully
I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge my duties
discharge my duties
as a member of the Noblesville Plan Commission
as a member of the Noblesville Planning Commission,
according to law
according to law
and to the best of my ability,
and to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Can we do roll call to see if we have a quorum, please?
Mrs. Rogers. Mr. Cook.
Present.
Ms. Means. Dr. Forgy.
Here.
Mrs. Sutton. Mr. Smith. Mrs. Young.
Here.
Mr. Bertner.
Present.
Mr. Hellman. Mr. Johnson.
Present.
Matt Wilcox.
Present.
Okay, we have 6 members, so we have a quorum.
Awesome.
Just a note for the record, and those present, although we do have a quorum, Plan Commission decisions do require a majority of all the members, not just those present. So anything to be adopted tonight will require unanimous vote, just for the note of the board and for those public. So if for some reason you would prefer to have more members, just note that that's part of, when you come forward, the risks that you're running, because it will require unanimous vote.
Thank you. We have 2 meetings that are listed on our agenda. However, with so many people missing, we won't be doing those tonight. And are there any requests for continuances?
Good evening. For the record, Jim Schinner with law firm of Nelson and Frankenberg with offices in Carmel. The first 2 items listed on your agenda tonight regarding the Drees Premier Homes request, we are asking for a continuance until your April 20th Plan Commission meeting. Reason for that are 2 factors generally. The first is we received the draft staff report mid-last week. When we received it in the afternoon, I had emailed back staff asking if we could have a meeting to discuss some of the items contained in the staff report, because we had some questions and wanted to make sure we had time to resolve and address those items through a discussion. I emailed them later in the afternoon on Wednesday, but then I came to realize that I believe some members were out Thursday and Friday. So reason number 1 is we wanted some additional time to work through some of those items with planning staff as it related to that draft staff report. And then the second reason was that we had a neighborhood meeting last week on the 9th, and the property owner that's to our immediate north had reached out and wanted to have an additional meeting with the Drees representatives. And so they've reached out to him to schedule a follow-up meeting with him to answer some additional questions that he may have, and he wanted to hopefully have that meeting prior to the public hearing. That's more of a secondary reason, but it was a reason nonetheless. So with that said, we're respectfully asking for a continuance. If the Plan Commission deems it appropriate, I can also resend notice to the surrounding owner list advertising of the April 20th Plan Commission meeting if you see it fit to grant us that continuance tonight to April. And remain available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any comments or questions? Okay, my only comment is, I do think that I would like for you to take on the responsibility of notifying those people at this late date. It's a pretty last-minute request.
I promise we will.
Okay. So could I have, do we need just a show of hands allowing this, Mr. Hughes?
A show of hands is fine.
Okay, all in favor of allowing the continuance, please raise your hands.
Just for the record, do we have a motion to second? Probably should.
No, we didn't, that's
Okay.
what I asked,
I'm
if we
sorry, I'm
needed a
sorry, you
motion
asked,
or just
yeah,
a
a
vote.
motion to second, then you
I
can
so
have a vote.
move.
by hands. I'm sorry, Ms. Wilcox.
Okay, then I will move that we allow the continuance on the stipulation that the petitioner will notify those people in or around that area of the change. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? I think it carries. Are you opposed?
No, I'm
Okay,
for.
thank you.
Sorry.
All right,
We appreciate your consideration. I'll be sure to mail out that notice of the April 20th Plan Commission. Thank you again.
I appreciate that, thank you. Okay, we'll go on to the second item that was up for public hearing, and that is application number RESI 0430-2026. Consideration of an application for the demolition of a residential structure within the Downtown Protection Boundary District located at 1396 Logan Street, submitted by Mitzi Eichenberger.
Good evening. The structure that was located at 1396 Logan Street was taken down to the foundation on February 26th, 2026. Taking a home down to the foundation is considered a demolition based upon the applicable definition within the Unified Development Ordinance. The property is located within the downtown protection boundary, which sets out a procedure for demolition that requires the issuance of a certificate of authorization prior to demolition. Planning staff was notified on the action that morning and made contact with the owner. At the time of those actions, the owner did have an active permit for a residential addition that included a full remodel of the home. The permit was issued November 21st, 2025, and our office has completed a footing inspection. Staff on that day did issue a stop work order and advised the owner of the need of this proceeding on February 26th. The owner purchased the property in May 2025. At possession, there were numerous issues with the building, including no kitchen, a lot of debris and possessions left behind by the previous tenants, and all the major mechanical systems needed to be replaced. There was also evidence of drug use and possible drug manufacture in the building. An addition is anticipated to have some level of demolition included in the scope of work. In this case, the plans identified some changes to the interior walls, removing them in one and putting a beam in, something along those lines. But the main shell of the building was to remain with an addition to the north they took an older addition off and enlarged it slightly, and then an addition to the west, which was a screened-in porch. The front porch was also moving from the front right to the front left, so it was switching sides. The owner began work under that permit, and over the course of the last month or so, the building has been coming down in sections like the roof and second floor. As our conversations with the owner developed, we found out that they were slowly revealing infrastructure in the house and finding things that were wrong, so that was why it was coming down in sections. The main problem with the home now is the foundation has some very weak areas. So the original foundation was comprised of brick and stone, and had a mortar-like substance holding it together. Given the age of that mortar-like substance, it started to crumble, and so there's not a lot of stability in that. The contractor has been doing this type of work for a long time, and based upon his years of experience, he decided, without city approval, that the few remaining walls needed to come down. When all the walls came to the ground, the work now met the definition of a demolition, which is to bring a structure to the ground. The owner found out that the remaining walls had come down on the same day as the city. She knew of the foundation issues, but it was not specifically communicated that the walls were coming down. Moving forward, the owner intends to rebuild using the plans that were submitted for the original building permit. The item on the display is the elevation drawings from the original building permit submittal, and the main core does look exactly like the existing home that was removed. There were some chimneys on the south and east elevations, I think, and north and south. And they were both in pretty bad shape, and that had always intended to be taken down. In a perfect world, the city inspectors would have called to request a meeting when the amount of demolition began to add up. Obviously, that didn't happen in this instance, but we can move forward and learn from this situation. We have already modified our online applications and descriptions for residential remodels and additions. We have included a requirement to provide a demolition plan or a narrative of the demolition as a required document with their submission. We also have an internal meeting on the schedule to allow staff to discuss the existing ordinance text and review whether there are changes that could be made to that ordinance to prevent this from happening in the future. Staff does not typically provide a recommendation with the certificate of authorization requests, but in this instance, we do want to let you know what next steps would be if the certificate of authorization is not approved. It is believed that the structure will match the previous. The owner has already been fined $2,500, and if denied a certificate of authorization, a fine of up to $7,500 a day would begin to accrue until the property came into compliance. The filing of an application for hearing does stop the accrual of those fines until the result of the hearing is received, so that we are not currently in the process of doing a per day accrual. I'm happy.
Madam President, I just had one note on the fine piece. Indiana law, the maximum fine that someone can be fined for a first-time violation of an ordinance is $2,500. So the fine is the max we can impose for day one. The law then allows you to charge up to $7,500 for each subsequent day. So that is the max penalty that the city is allowed to charge, just so you understand why that penalty was fixed.
So, Mr. Hughes, I believe the wording was until it's brought into compliance. I don't see how it can be brought into compliance because the builder acted well out of the scope of where they should have been.
Yeah, so the response to that would be one of the requirements under our demolition ordinance is that cannot demolish a historic building. So we're kind of in a tough spot, right? So what would compliance be? That would have to be a determination by our director that the structure that's been erected there meets the historic quality of the downtown area, and they would just continue to get fines up until that time. So that's at this point, it's either remains vacant, right, and nothing can be built there, or we get it into compliance. Those are really our two options. So that would be the director's determination. He would determine whether it's built like this or whether he thinks there's more aesthetic nature that needs to be added. It would be at his determination. That's the best compliance we could come up with, because
It just
unfortunately
seems
the
that-
materials are gone.
It just seems rather punitive until it's completely built.
Sure.
It's pretty hard to build a house in a day or
Yeah,
a week or
correct.
even a month.
Yep.
And it would seem that the homeowner had every intention. She had very good intentions. And if anybody should be fined, it should be a builder that acted in that manner, but
Yeah,
it's just, I'm kind of appalled by their behavior.
Agreed, with respect to who should pay the penalty.
Yeah, but she's
and-
the homeowner.
And my opinion is that's exactly who should pay that penalty. And also agreed that the reason that we didn't apply any further penalties was because they applied immediately. But the city has to enforce, this ordinance is
Oh,
really
absolutely,
important,
yeah.
right? And so what you're saying is absolutely something you should consider in this evaluation, is if you make a decision to say that this can proceed subject to certain conditions, then the penalties would be stayed. If you believe additional penalties should be applied, you certainly can give us that guidance as well.
Thank you.
And you can also see in the motion for approval, it does ask that they incorporate architectural requirements from the previous home with the rebuild as part of the complying with the certificate of authorization.
Does anyone else have questions for staff?
Are these renderings what it would have been had it been built the way it came to us the first time?
Yes, and
So architecturally, that is where it was gonna go before we got into.
correct.
Off the track, so.
The original house had a hipped roof, and the addition on the back had started to sink, and so that was why they took it off. But the addition that replaced it is larger, and I will say this listing on the National Register, I know I printed this out. This listing was interesting to me, just in that, so the highlighted one is this home. You'll notice the other homes, most of them associate an architectural style with the home, whether it's craftsman, I think I saw Queen Anne, Italianate. So they associate a specific architectural type, and this one just says it's a hipped roof T-plan with front chimney and side porch. And it called both the home and the one-car garage a contributing structure.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Can you walk us through like what should have happened, given the ordinance?
So when they got to the first floor, being the only part of it that's up, they probably should have called to schedule a meeting with our inspectors on site, and they would walk them through what next steps would be. And those inspectors then would come back to the planners and say, hey, they're taking this completely down. What do we need to do? And then at that point, we would have been having this hearing with at least the first floor up. But we were notified it was starting to come down the evening before the 26th. And by 9:30 on the 26th, it was completely down.
Do you believe it could have been salvaged?
I believe that the items that the owner has told me they found as they started to uncover it, they would have spent a lot of money to salvage it, and the foundation repairs would have been relatively difficult.
They would have been costly, but it could have saved the home.
They did find some wood rot and also termites, so I don't know how extensive those were, but they were starting to uncover that as they got further in.
How much, for lack of a better word, evidence do we have of the extent of the damage?
I don't have any personally.
Okay, so it's all hearsay.
It's all from the owner and the contractor.
Understood.
Madam President?
Yeah.
Yeah, Denise, thank you. From an environmental standpoint, have necessary and appropriate steps been taken to inspect and abate any asbestos, lead-based paint the remnants of, you mentioned possible drug activity.
So-
And then by extension then, the demolition debris that has left the site, has it been appropriately profiled? And has it been taken to an appropriate landfill? All of those questions, and back to, do we have documentation of any of that? Thank you.
So our understanding of the asbestos rules, we have someone that did the certified test on staff. Government entities have to do the asbestos evaluation regardless of how many structures they're taking down. For private owners, one structure does not require the asbestos report. If they did 2 or more structures at that time, the asbestos report is required. As to the lead paint, I'm not sure what those regulations are. And because we didn't have a demolition permit, we don't know where their waste was disposed, so.
You mentioned with contributing outbuilding, does that qualify it as more than one structure?
Well, the outbuilding's still there. It's how many they take to the ground.
Just to connect Mr. Johnson's question back to Mr. Cook's question.
Please.
Had we had a meeting on site and discussed the demolition process, our demolition process, we would have gone through all these regulations and said, here's what you need to do. We would have explained that asbestos may not be required, but here's the other regulations.
But
So
at
that
least
would be
have-
part of that process as
At
well.
least would have addressed it.
Yeah, and it's included in our demolition permit that they have to certify that they followed all the rules that are applicable to them.
Thank you.
Are there repercussions to a builder's license who does something like this?
We don't license contractors.
We don't in the state of Indiana, that's,
And in this
That's not
instance,
good.
the property owner was actually the applicant on the permit. There
Okay.
may have been few more issues if the the contractor himself had applied, because there's a statement they're attesting to as part of the application process that we may have been able to at least pursue something legally.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Is the owner here and would like to speak on the matter prior to the public hearing? Would you like to speak, or are you good with Ms. Ashelman's?
Unless I.
You just need to come to the mic, state your name and your address.
Sorry, Mitzi Eichenberger, and yes, I'm the owner of 1396 Logan Street. Denise covered everything pretty well. I think it was, basically a miscommunication, misunderstanding of what the permit parameters were. I had been out of town, came back, and, basically, they had found that there was no saving what we were hoping to be saved, because certainly we did not want to do anything as drastic as what we've had to do, because it's more time, effort, money. But there was just so much damage that we just felt like we didn't, he felt like he didn't have a choice.
Did he happen to take any photos of any of that damage?
Yes, I believe so. And I believe Chris Moore came out. We called Chris. He's one of the inspectors. And he came out to see what, I think, the foundation, once we got to that, like where it was crumbling and disintegrating. He took a look at it, and I think he was in agreement of this is, we need to stop. Didn't really go about it the right way, but it's not probably something you should have as your foundation of a new home, basically a new home.
Ms. Ashelman, do you know if Mr. Moore submitted a report?
I don't believe that he did. Caleb is the one that had direct conversations with Chris about it. I didn't. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what we have in our files.
When I realized we had overstepped the permit limits, I immediately called, I tried the office and I got a machine and I was a little panicked, so I called Chris because I had his number. And, wanted to get his recommendation, like, what do we do? And he said, hey, I'm close by, I'll come over, I'll take a look, I'll get back with you. And then
Chris. Excuse me, Chris.
Chris Moore,
Chris Moore.
one of the inspectors. And so then I no more than got off the phone with him, then Caleb Gutshaw called me. Did I say his name right? I'm sorry. He called me and we had a discussion, and then he said, let me talk to Chris, let me get all this information. And then, of course, he got back with me about, how this all needed to proceed at this point, so. And then here we are.
I appreciate you kind of opening your dialogue on what happened. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah. And I know it caused, a big uproar in the neighborhood. And I think a lot of that was because people didn't know what was going on and they were just seeing things and a little flabbergasted and then not knowing, but, we fully intended to have a beautiful home, all in line with what's historically, the character of the neighborhood and the street and all of that. I don't know, I heard a rumor that we were putting some modern house there, and it's like, well, it totally goes in line with what's in the neighborhood and along the street there on the homes. So, we feel confident we can build it back up with all the, with modern, with a good foundation and modern amenities. And there was one semi-working bathroom in the house. There was no kitchen, no electricity really on the main floor, no heating on the main floor. I mean, it was really in bad shape. So there was a lot that needed to be done to this home. And what was left after we, it was like, oh, there wasn't even going to be much because we were adding on. It needed a new roof. We were adding on to 3 out of the 4 sides, plus taking the front and back chimneys down because we had a full inspection kind of on the house, just for FYI. And the chimneys he said, were not savable. I'm forgetting Dan's name, the one who I talked to, but.
If we keep the house historically accurate, is there a reason you didn't decide to put chimneys back in so that the look of the house would remain consistent to what it had been?
There is a reason in the fact that the one on the back side of the house was really huge and stuck out into what's going to be the kitchen. Excuse me. And the one on the front side, we all just thought, 1, it was falling down, but 2, it was just right on the front of the house. But we do plan to put a fireplace on the inside of the house, an electric fireplace on the east side of the house. So it will still have a fireplace. It will still won't have a big brick chimney because it just impedes on the whole layout. But
I had a house on the National Historic Register, so I can just imagine what I would have had to go through to take a chimney away.
yeah,
And so that's why I'm asking that
Yeah.
question, why
Yeah.
something like that wasn't incorporated back into the building plans so that you remained more historically accurate to your neighbors?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we hired an architect. We were really having a hard time getting a flow of the house with the huge chimneys. It was really, we wanted to put, I guess Denise has the pictures, but we wanted to be able to see out the front of the house, the side that faces Logan Street. So that would be. I don't have that picture. Wait, I have it here. It really sealed off the house from the view of Logan Street, and to actually also have a porch which we thought was really important to have a porch on that house. Sorry, I think I just found it.
So it was a matter of personal taste, the design choice?
Yes, yes, I'll
Okay.
show you here. I think I will. So this is, this would be the sidewalk coming out to Logan right here. So the chimney pretty much took up this whole area here.
But the chimney's more historically accurate.
I mean, I guess it was on the original house. But this was our plan to approve before we even did anything. This was our original plan. And this is a little L-shaped front porch. There is not much, you can't really tell here, but there's not much front yard here. It's really just a little bit, and then you've got the sidewalk, that runs about right here. And then over here would be 14th Street, and there's not a lot of, that would be the east side. There's not a lot of yard on the east side either. So we kind of went over to this west side to get a nice little L-shaped, small, but it's a little L-shaped porch.
Mitzi, can I just say something real
Yeah.
quick? This area is on National Register of Historic Places, but we do not locally have standards for architecture on those buildings. We don't have a local historic district.
Sounds like we might need one.
So we don't ask that they try to keep the house somewhat accurate?
I think
We-
it's different
We do
now.
not. And that's partially why the plan was approved without the chimney on the front.
Okay.
Is we don't have a architectural requirement for
We
that.
sure need one.
So this would have all come through here had they done the proper process,
Correct.
exactly as is designed. Still would have come to us for us to vote on.
Okay.
Correct.
And I do think the chimney was probably down before we would have said it needed to come back,
Okay.
so.
We'll certainly have it become a home versus a drug house is a much better thing to have happen.
What's that, I'm sorry?
A home versus a drug house next door is always a better thing.
Right.
I applaud you for that. It's just,
It had been really, I think, neglected for maybe about 10 years. It was sort of going downhill. But I have a daughter and a future son-in-law that live in Noblesville, and they want to stay in Noblesville, and that was our whole kind of purpose, is that he's grown up here, and he always loved Logan Street. And his parents still live here, sister, all of them. So, when that house, the opportunity came to buy it, we were like, this could be great for our kids, and we want them obviously to stay close. We live about 5 miles away, so we got started, and it's just been like a snowball. So anyway, but we love the area, so we're hoping that we can just redo it and make it nice, a little bit more modern as far as amenities or, what the house offers for, whether it be a family or a young couple or, something that is more sufficient and more usable with closet space, an extra bathroom, a nice outdoor sitting area. So that's what we were trying to do.
okay. Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, welcome.
And this is a matter of public hearing, so at this time, I will open the public hearing, and I'm just gonna ask that you keep in mind that if you're here to speak on behalf of an association, you have 5 minutes to speak. If you're here to speak just in general, individually, you have a 3-minute time, and we will be timing you. And I have a few cards up here, so if you're going to speak and haven't turned one of these cards in, I will ask that you do that. So just come forward individually, and you will say your name and your address. Okay, is anybody gonna come forward, or are we just gonna close our public hearing? Okay. I won't rush you.
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Joshua Glassburn Ruby. I am speaking on behalf of Noblesville Preservation Alliance as the executive director. Before beginning, I would like to note a point of concern for clarification in the record. When a permit is issued for a remodel and addition, and that permit states the main structural frame of the home will remain, yet the structure is later demolished down to the foundation, it raises an important question as to whether that project would ordinarily require a new permit and review as a new construction. As we see these plans, it looks like a brand new home because the home that was designed around is gone. So that is why I was raising that point. Tonight's discussion is not simply about whether demolition should be approved for a structure that no longer exists. The central issue is whether the permitting process established by the city will be applied consistently, or whether it can effectively be bypassed by demolishing a structure first and seeking approval afterward. The permit issued in November of 2025 was for a remodel and room addition. The documents submitted to the city stated that the main frame of the existing home would remain, and that representation formed the basis under which the permit was reviewed and approved. However, the staff report now confirms what we already know, which is that the structure was taken down to the foundation. Once the structural walls were removed and the house ceased to exist, the project was no longer operating within the scope of the permit that had been approved. At that point, the project effectively became new construction. Under normal circumstances, a change of that magnitude would require a new permit and full review process, including the demolition review required for properties located within this protected historic district. That review process exists so the demolition decisions occur before a structure is removed, not afterward. A contributing structure that stood for 146 years was removed before the demolition review process that is intended to protect these neighborhoods had an opportunity to function. Because of that, the decision made tonight carries weight far beyond this single property. The action taken by this commission will establish how situations like this are handled moving forward. It will set precedent for whether the city's preservation ordinance must be followed before demolition occurs, or whether it can effectively be addressed after the fact. There are also contradictions between the staff report and the homeowner's written statement regarding the timeline of demolition. In the homeowner's letter dated March 9th, the owner states they arrived on February 26th and were shocked to find the home demolished. However, the same letter also describes demolition work that occurred beforehand, including removal of walls, chimney, flooring, insulation, and other structural components, as well as the home being left open to the elements for months. The staff report states that demolition occurred over several weeks. As witnessed by myself and neighboring residents, activity actually began nearly 2 months earlier on December 30th, 2025 at approximately 11 a.m. with the partial demolition of the south-facing facade. This timeline is important when considering whether the situation could reasonably be characterized as a structural emergency. Structural emergencies typically involve an immediate safety concern requiring urgent stabilization or removal. They do not unfold gradually over several weeks while a structure is dismantled piece by piece and wall by wall and floor by floor. I would also like to speak briefly about what this demolition represents for the surrounding neighborhood and the historic district as a whole. Logan Street and the entire area known as Old Town represents the most historically significant pieces remaining of the original Noblesville boundaries. These streets tell a story of how our city began. The homes along them reflect more than a century of architectural development and community history. Historic districts exist because individual buildings together create a sense of place. Each structure contributes to the scale, character, and visual rhythm of the street. The house that stood here had been part of Logan Street since 1880 and was recognized as a contributing structure with the historic district listed on the National Register. It was originally built as an Italianate In the early 1920s, it underwent an external redesign to be an arts and crafts style, and no additions were added to the home in 1920. When buildings like this disappear, the loss is not limited to a single property. It affects the continuity and character of the entire neighborhood. The replacement design appears to take a very different architectural direction. The scale and massing resemble the type of large home that commonly is found in modern subdivision construction rather than historic architecture that defines Logan Street. In many ways, the structure reads less like a home that evolved within the historic district and more like a subdivision house placed within it. That contrast matters because historic neighborhoods rely on consistent scale, proportion, and architectural rhythm in order to maintain their character. Historic preservation exists because communities recognize that their historic fabric is irreplaceable once it is lost. These neighborhoods are physical records of the people, craftsmanship, and history that shape the community we live in today. Preserving that history requires a process that is clear, consistent, and applied equally to every single project.
And
Finally, there is an important point that deserves clarity for the record.
I'm going to stop you here at your 5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And who was the next person that wanted to speak? And could you tell me your name again so I can pull your card, sir? Josh. Thank you. Hello.
Hi, my name is Kent Williams, live at 1397 Clinton Street, and live like 2-3 houses away from the project at hand. Just to exemplify, I'm a little hazy on some of the excuses, but if they were worried about some things, I saw the workers for days and days, never wore hazmat suits, not even a mask on these days. They started tearing the roof down slowly, then the top, the roof, slowly left. Couple floors looked like maybe they're gonna save. They had it jacked up, starting to put blocks down, and then a few days later, gone. So just so, and as Josh stated, windows, doors were open for months before a lot of this even started happening. So just a little caution there. But anyway, we built a new house just around the corner. We followed the rules. Not everything went smoothly, but we were given the permissions and we passed all the inspections. Now that it's already been demolished, my contention, it's now a new building. So they have to follow all the setback rules and everything else like we did. And the biggest thing here is the front setback. They already have a wall, which is the same spot as the next. The rules on the books are it has to be an average of the existing 2 buildings next to it. And a rough estimation I have, they have to move that back at least 6 feet. And it's already sitting there. There's footers and blocks in place. So I encourage you to go look at it, but it is what it is. There's other things that I don't necessarily go. Some of the rules, as I think Josh is trying to get to, that we need to get clarified with rules with all the groups, the council, the zoning, the building, all these people, because different opinions are gonna be about what's a real architectural structure, what's good for the neighborhood. You know, for me, if something, I kind of feel for the owner, it's an old place, wasn't really that great, but, you know, you gotta follow the rules, I guess. So I would suggest that the city requires structures in the district to fit in the neighborhood, or at least give them a list of acceptable styles. In this case, obviously, they tore it down after the fact. They were already given some permission, so it's tricky there. But when they do complete, what I would suggest is they put some, I don't know, fancy cornices or whatever, some baubles here and there to make it look older, and that would definitely get to fit in better. And I guess this commission doesn't really get into the nitty-gritty, but we ran into a thing about floor area ratio, which is still on the books. Why, I'm not really sure. It seems like you can nitpick this and that, but it's still on there. But it's known, after we got delayed a few weeks, that, oh, we don't enforce that. So we went from not even being able to build a house to, oh, now you're in, but we were given the wrong setbacks and we moved back, so.
You are at your 3 minutes, but thank you.
3, I thought I got 5 for being a neighbor.
You're only speaking as an individual.
Oh, the opposite, association. All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
luck.
We appreciate you coming forward.
Good evening. My name is Katie Nernberger. I live at 1359 Logan Street. I've had a front row seat to all the work that's been done. My family and I chose to live on Logan Street because we value the history and character of this neighborhood. It is a place filled with families, children, and homes that together tell the story of Noblesville's past. Preserving that sense of place is important to many of us who live there. I would like to address the claims that have been made about the conditions inside the house prior to its demolition. The owner's narrative describes a variety of alarming conditions inside the structure, including drug activity and potentially hazardous materials. Those claims raise a serious concern. If the home truly contained dangerous contamination, including drug manufacturing or chemical exposure, then removing the walls, opening the structure, and dismantling it piece by piece could have created a significant health risk for the surrounding neighborhood. Logan Street is a residential street filled with families and children. I have 4 children myself. Over a period of time, I observed walls being opened, materials being removed, and the structure gradually dismantled, all of which went into Buck's, the company Buck's dumpsters, none of which was handled as if it was hazardous. Like I said, if contamination truly existed inside the structure, it would seem that the situation should have triggered a controlled environmental cleanup process rather than an open demolition project. When hazardous materials or drug contamination are suspected, standard practice typically involves controlled remediation, procedures designed to protect workers and surrounding residents. These procedures often include containment measures, protective equipment, and oversight to ensure that potentially harmful substances are not released into the surrounding environment. In a residential neighborhood where families and children live nearby, those precautions are especially important. That is what I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming forward. And I have one more card. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rocky Walls. I live at 1283 Logan Street. I also own 1236 Connor Street and 239 8th Street, all 3 buildings that are within this protected district. And I wrote a letter of support for the ordinance back in 2023, and I'll write another one if we have a more strict ordinance to help protect against things like this in the future. I want to be clear that my concern tonight is not about punishing a particular homeowner. My concern is for the precedent that this situation sets for our neighborhood and the historic preservation across the city. The ordinance that exists today was created to protect historic structures and the character of streets like ours. But ordinances only work if they're followed and if they are enforced in a way that gives them real meaning. If the outcome of this situation is simply that a historic home can be demolished without following required process and then the project proceeds anyway, it raises a serious question. What's the purpose of having any of these ordinances to begin with? What troubles me most about the situation is that there were multiple moments in this process where the outcomes we're seeing now should not have been a surprise. For example, the plans submitted for this project clearly show a house that's completely different from the existing historic structure, as referenced tonight by several questions by this board here. When you look at these renderings, it's difficult to imagine any scenario where the original house would meaningfully remain. That alone should have raised a question. If this design is built as shown, how much of this historic structure could actually possibly survive? Similarly, if a general contractor was identified for the project, there should have been a clear expectation communicated that demolition of a historic structure without following ordinances would be a violation. Whether the demolition happened intentionally or by mistake is really beside the point. The process should make it very difficult for that kind of mistake to happen in the first place. Another issue that concerns me is the way the replacement house has been described as historic. That's subjective. What I see in the plans is a structure that appears completely different, and once completed, it will likely leave no visible trace that a historic home once stood on this lot. If we're going to rely on preservation ordinances, then it may be worth asking whether those ordinances should include more objective standards, such as how much of a structure must remain or how much of the exterior can be altered before something is considered a demolition rather than a renovation. Finally, I want to acknowledge, because I've done this, that historic homes can be in rough condition. Structural issues happen. That is exactly why review processes exist. If parts of a structure truly needed to be replaced for safety reasons, that case can be made and evaluated through proper channels before demolition occurs. Many of us live on this street because we value the history and character of this neighborhood. No one here is asking for a homeowners association that dictates architectural style or paint colors. And we're not trying to be nasty neighbors. What we're asking for is confidence that when the city creates an ordinance to protect historic properties, that ordinance will be respected, monitored, and enforced in a way that prevents situations like this from happening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's all the cards I have. Has anyone else thought of something else you'd like to talk about? You're welcome to come forward. Okay, seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. And commission members, I'd like some discussion on this because it's a pretty important matter.
I think I have a question just to start the discussion out is what happens if we vote against it? What's the next step in this project?
They start rebuilding, and we fine them until it's back up to a point the plan director decides that it complies.
Okay.
It would seem to me that some of this is on us. Because I'm looking at that and I don't think it looks, I would agree with what I've heard, that it looks like a new build.
That to me doesn't belong, no.
I don't know why that was approved. I really don't. And that's not the fault of the applicant, that's on us.
We don't have architectural standards in Old Town.
But I think when we're looking at this, if an old house has fireplaces, I can't believe that we didn't incorporate one into this design. I think that we need to keep in order to allow this, we have to at least go with the spirit of what the home looked like. And that's not where we are at all. So, I don't know, that's my thinking.
My thoughts are I'm all about the precedent. I mean, I might have voted for this project had it come through the regular process, but the fact that it didn't, I can't just throw our ordinance out the window.
Well, and we've had a situation where someone wanted to tear a house down and put a parking lot, and I was adamantly opposed to that.
And it was in a lot worse shape than this house.
But part of this is when you buy an old house, you know you're gonna run into that.
I'm also not quite sure about the actual state that it was in. A lot of it is, people saying this, but there's I would love to, like, the house inspection, where's that? As someone who owns an old home and renovates an old home, it's very expensive, and that's something you have to know, but all homes are expensive to renovate. I just have a lot of questions about that, and it concerns me.
Just to clarify the record, I'll make this an exhibit to the record, but just.
Thank you.
So the document that Denise showed that said one of the chimneys was contributing and it said the front one, I can only assume that's the one facing Logan, so just so you have an example, but it looks like I know we're talking. This was the home that was there before the work was completed. There is another chimney. I'll make that another exhibit. It's going the wrong direction here. The other chimney you can see on the back of the home. Take a second to catch up. That one was not listed as contributing, but that's where the other chimney was, just so the board has an idea of kind of what the home looked like before, to get the complete view of that. And just as a note to this board, there's some of the things I'm hearing. You guys can take the action you think is appropriate. Several actions that could be appropriate are approve as presented, deny as presented. You could request a continuance for more information if you believe there's more information you need. You could also approve with conditions, and your conditions could be, this is a recommendation from this board that then would go to council, so we'd have another hearing in front of council, but your recommendation could be, for example, that the plans need to be revised in whatever way you think is appropriate to meet the historic character. So those are all options on the table for this board.
And so this will go to council?
If this board approves it, it will go to council. The only other one we've had before us was the one you mentioned, Ms. Wilcox, and on that one, this board denied it, and the rule says if it's denied by this board, it does not get approved. But if this board approves it, then it would go to council for a secondary review. That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Johnson, do you have any comments being a representative of the council?
I think I have to since you introduced me. No, thank you. I think a number of questions have been raised tonight, and a number of folks on this commission have asked for some answers, and we have not received them, thus far. Inspections and those kinds of things. In addition, we've got five members absent from tonight's meeting, and the fact that it's of significant importance to our downtown and to our community as a whole. I think it's perhaps appropriate that other members of this commission have an opportunity to hear, see, speak, ask questions. Just me. I know talk amongst council is not very favorable to this project.
And Mr. Burtner, do you have any comments?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do what?
You're as old Noblesville as you get.
I agree with the old part.
Mine is not if the house goes back up. Mine is the ordinance that we passed, that we kept somebody else from taking a building down. And if we allow this, if we approve this, then that guy can go remove that building tomorrow and get a $2,500 fine. And our ordinance that we passed means nothing. Okay? So that's where I'm at. I don't want to deny them to build a house there, but my thing is, that was passed to protect those homes, and I know it wasn't the fault of the homeowners, but the contractor should have been responsible enough to know what's going on. And I'm in the business, and I can't imagine how bad that whole house would have to be tore down completely to the foundation. I'd have to see some pictures. We work in downtown, the old town Noblesville, all the time, and they're not tearing houses down. So my point is we passed an ordinance. We've already set a precedent that we're not going to stand, where we're at. And if this gets passed, then we might as well trash that ordinance. So that's where I'm at. So.
Dr. Ford?
And I'm agreed, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Burtner, concerned about the precedent we set. Tear it down and ask for forgiveness later.
Well, and part of that is if there's some remediation from that home builder, that's between the owner and the home builder. That's not anything that we can dictate. So I think at this point in time,
Sorry, I was just going to make one comment on Mr. Burtner's comment, and I do agree with you, Mr. Burtner. That's something we absolutely should be paying attention to, is how other people would react around this. The only slight difference that I would say between the two is that other one was demolish the home and replace it with a parking lot. This is an intent to replace it with a home. So then the question becomes, does the home meet the historic character? And that may still be a no, right? You may still say
part of our ordinance
no.
is what the value of the property that stands there now.
Yeah.
Can it
correct.
be?
One factor.
Yeah,
That's one factor.
That's one condition. So there's two different, there's basically three different ways this can go forward. One is that, which is what the property owner tried to do there, was to say it wasn't worth salvaging, right? The other option is it can be demolished as long as it's replaced with a building of contributing historical significance for things, and I'm not commenting on the evidence here, whether the evidence supports that it needed, but for things like this, where if the home is just in such bad shape that it's not going to stand up, think like if there had been a tornado that had come through or something, we might say, yes, let's demolish it, but replace it. So there is that's the different path. They're two different paths. So it's not just they don't have to prove here the value. They just have to prove to you that what they're building is back to historic contributing value. And you may find that it doesn't. But I wanted to point out that slight difference as to why, because one of the problems is if someone demolishes a building, we just have it demolished, what do we do? And so that's where our response is you fine them until they put the building back up. Because I don't know what else, I don't know what else to tell someone to do, right?
So one of the things to keep in mind with this, we've learned a lot of lessons. Unless they're demolishing it overnight, I don't think they're getting it down anymore, because once they took the roof off, if we were doing this again, once they took the roof system off, we're probably stopping in and having a conversation about what they're doing and how far they continue to go, and stop working them if we don't agree with what they're proposing to do. So we as staff also learn lessons, like go see them after the second floor comes off, or go see them after the roof comes off. So, is the commission willing to consider a continuance for them to look at adding some architectural features and providing some of the documentation, if they have it, that you all think would be helpful?
I have a problem with the fact that whatever the vote is the precedence. Ultimately, I don't want a vacant lot on Logan, and there should be a house built up there. And yes, I would like that picture that we saw tonight to get out of here and look more like the original picture, because I think that's in the spirit of the home. But if we do a continuance or approve anything like that, then it goes back to what Mr. Bertner said of paid a $2,500 fine and they got a brand new house that they wanted, and our ordinance is out the door. So I am more concerned about the ordinance precedents than, this is a neighbor, this is all very personal to many people in the room. And I don't want a vacant lot on Logan, but more importantly, I don't want to set a precedence tonight that people can pay $2,500 to tear down any home in Noblesville.
Ms. Wilcox? I would also add that I would like to see some kind of action sooner rather than later, as opposed to the eyesore that is there now and the health and safety hazard that is there now with a hole partially full of debris with a string of red or yellow tape around it. I mean, there's a lot of children in the area, there's people, we've got parades coming up. I mean, we continue to kick this can down the road, it could be months before that gets cleaned up, and I don't know that that's what any neighbors or anyone else wants either.
So can you help clarify our options again? If we deny, the owners would have to build a structure.
So let's talk about what had happened if they did not comply with our stop work order, or if they refused to file a demolition permit. If that had occurred, then we dealt with this. It wasn't in a historic area, but we dealt with this before, where a property owner refused to apply for a demolition permit and we ended up in court. I would have filed what's called an injunction against that person, and I would have said you need to immediately file a demolition permit and follow these procedures, or bring the lot into compliance, which the only way I can say lot in compliance here is to rebuild what was there originally. I don't know what else would be compliance. I'll be candid, that poses some issues, I think, just practically, whether that's actually going to happen, and whether, and then how we accomplish that. So that would have been what happened if they had not.
Because it's so subjective.
Well, it's subjective, and because the building's gone and the materials are gone. So we certainly could give them direction on this is what we want, and that's what I would say this board ought to do. If your plan is to say we're denying it, I would encourage your motion to include, and our denial, we would like to see this. I think what this is rebuild the structure that was there in the not in the condition, in new condition, but it should look like it did before. I don't know what else to say there. So I agree with you. So that's option one. Option two is if you approve it. Okay, so what are we really approving? I agree with you that we are not, and I want to be clear, we're not setting a precedent that you can demolish a building and just pay a $2,500 fine. That's why I wanted them here, right? That was one option. We fine them and say, just go build the thing. And I explained to our team, no, they need to come to this board, right, and explain what happened. And you have a homeowner here who I think is telling a story of, once we found out about it, I did what I could. We might have a different homeowner who comes here and says, I don't care about your ordinances, right? So they need to come and explain to this board. So that I think is a good thing. I think this is the right process, the best process we can follow at this point. If you approve it, then I would encourage you to approve it with condition, and your condition should be, here's what we want to see happen. We'll approve the demolition, but we want to see, if you don't like the plans, we want to see new plans. Then I think the third option would be, to Ms. Wilcox's point, we don't have Mr. Moore's report in front of us, and if he took some photos, we'd like to see them. I think that's a fair request. Was it really structurally damaged, or was this just poorly managed project, which I think would inform your decision?
I do want to say that I think Chris was there after everything came down.
Okay.
In other words, his photos aren't gonna really show us what we would want.
It may not, correct.
Yep. The other comment then would be what you think, and this is to your point, Ms. Young, what you think about the architectural structure. That really is this board's purview. I mean, that's what we gave this board the purview to say is, do the plans meet the requirement? And you could say, we don't think they do, so we're denying it, or we don't think they do and we want to see better plans, so get to work on some better plans and come back next month. Those would kind of be your four options. Deny it, and then I would love to have this board say what you think that denial means. I think it means reconstruct what was there before in as near exact replica as possible. Option two would be to approve it, and if you approve it, I would love for this board to say we're approving it because we just approve it completely and build what's there, or approve it with the condition we want to see something revised. Option three is continue it to a future meeting with information on what you'd like to see back. I think those are our three options. I hope that
And
helps.
is it my understanding that whatever motion we make, it needs to be a unanimous vote?
Correct. Tonight would have to be unanimous. If the motion does not get unanimous vote, then the motion fails. So the way that these things work in terms of the way that the courts have looked at them is if you make a motion to approve and it fails, and there's not immediately a motion to continue, then that motion fails for failure to get unanimous vote. So we would then have to decide are we going to continue it, and if not, it would just fail. So I hope that helps.
Is there anyone on the commission that would like to make a motion?
Can we take a temperature a little bit and have a discussion on what a continuance would feel like
Yep, absolutely.
for everybody?
Yep.
Continuance would mean we would come back next month with more commission members, hopefully in presence.
Correct.
We could get more information
Correct.
from inspections and things like that.
Yep.
We could potentially get a better architectural design
Correct.
if we do a continuance.
My only comment on that is if you continue it, and I didn't say this before, but you should say whether you're going to allow public comment. And my view is if you're going to take more evidence from the applicant, you should allow anyone who wants to talk about that evidence to speak as well. So it would basically be continuing it with a limited, we don't want to hear everything we heard tonight, but a limited public hearing on whatever the new evidence is.
Mr. Hughes, what happens to the fine structure? Should we continue?
Yeah. My opinion is that because they attempted to come into compliance, at least with filing the permit, that's why we said let's stay the fines. So we would continue to hold the fines until the board made a decision, unless you are continuing and telling us you think there should be an additional fine, which we can certainly consider. Our ordinance does not say we have to stay it, but my opinion was once they tried to come into compliance, we should let this board make its decision. Because at that point, it's just when we have our meeting. I can't speed it up.
Did that answer your questions?
It did, I think so.
Do you feel comfortable making the motion?
I think so.
Okay.
Do I have to, I don't know, I want to word it correctly. start talking and then fix me. Please do, okay. Hold on, let me get to my notes. Okay, I make a motion to continue application RESI 000-430-2026 until the April meeting. What date is that, April meeting? April 20th. With the intention of seeing more inspection and information from Caleb and Chris. A revised architectural design from the homeowner.
Are you asking them to revise it back to the original look of the house, or are you asking them to make,
But specifically,
Put
like,
specific-
put
they
the
need-
chimney
they need-
back on the front, or, because keep in mind, they also had flipped the front porch.
Mm-hmm.
They are similarly sized, but they're on opposite sides.
And I would just for that
That needs
comment,
to
as you're tracking that, so just to remember, the language from the contributing factor is a 2-story hipped roof T-plan with front chimney and side porch, 1-car garage. That was
I
what
would say a
originally said.
revised architectural plan that is in the spirit of the National Register description. And what was my third thing?
So you want additional information both
Yep.
on the inspection, and just to be clear on that, homeowner mentioned a full property inspection, but are you talking about that plus anything that we've discovered?
I want to see everything.
Okay, so any inspection that they had, particularly with respect to the chimneys and why they were removed from the plan, but everything. The city's inspection, any information that Mr. Gutschall also has in his report. And you'd like to see a revised architectural
I'm
structure that
sorry,
is
you don't speak at this time.
Oh, sorry,
More.
I just wanted to get in line.
more in line with what we saw tonight. And then you said you had a third one. What was
Oh, I thought I did. I definitely want those two. What am I missing?
it? How do you feel about the fine? Do you want the fine to be stayed?
I think pause on the fine until our decision is appropriate.
Okay.
Okay, that's my continuance.
I will second
Did I-
that.
Is it the environmental?
Oh.
Are you worried about the
No,
environmental?
no, just if that's documentation as part of the inspection, but
Yeah.
I would also like to add to that, modify that, Mr.
Sure.
Hughes. Any justification for the total demolition, whether that's photographs or whatever made the contractor and the owner decide, hey, this has all got to go.
That seems to me to be consistent with what you said on the inspection, so I
Yes,
think that's a
yes.
friendly
Yes,
amendment.
that's the intent.
But
Okay.
it just seemed to me that the, hey, it has to go, came well after the inspection.
Yep, that's fair.
Yeah.
And then Ms. Wilcox, you second that. Do
I
you
second.
second it with that
Yes.
change?
Yeah, thank you.
Can we have a vote, please?
Dr. Forgy,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Cook,
Aye.
Mrs. Young,
I,
Mr. Bertner,
Aye.
President Wilcox.
Aye. Oh, well, can we automatically just move in that we are going to allow another public hearing on this?
oh, yes.
I think that'll be assumed.
Is that a?
Yep,
okay.
I don't think we need to add that to the motion, but we'll
I
make sure
wanna
the
make sure
record
that we do
reflects
that.
that there will be a public hearing. I would expect those who are here for that public hearing that it will be limited to the new evidence. So
Yes.
if you have information or things that you wanted to say tonight that you didn't, I would encourage you to submit those in writing. But on the new evidence, we'll again have response, and those written comments should come to Denise Ashelman. If you need her information, you can come get it from her. And we'll include any written comments in the record.
And anyone that got the notice, my email address is on the notice, so.
Thank you for walking me through that.
You're welcome. Well done.
And thank you for being here tonight, and addressing. Thank you for being here tonight and addressing us.
Yes, thank you. Well, we can do that after the meeting. We have one more thing to go through here now. Okay, the last thing on the agenda is application number LEGP 036-2026, Plan Commission Order Number 01-2026, and order of the Plan Commission approving amendments to the declaratory resolution and economic development plan for the Midland Point Economic Development Area. Ms. Shelton. And as you leave, if you could not stand out there and talk, because then we can't continue this. Appreciate you.
Hi.
Hi.
I don't think there'll be anybody here on my matter, so I should be pretty safe. This is basically an order that's been presented to the Plan Commission for consideration that the proposal of this additional property, there's this additional 2 acres, basically, we heard, I don't know, in the last couple of months here at the Plan Commission, it got adopted by the council to add this additional 2 acres to the Midland Point Plan Development. As you recall, anything that is basically going to be north of Midland Point Boulevard is currently zoned PB Plan Business, which allows commercial and office type uses. The area here in the southern is for an apartment complex. The remainder from what I'm going to say is the roadway down to the south, it was left R1 because they're not sure what they're going to do with that property at this point. So it is a part of the PD. So approximately 1/3 of this will be basically put into the economic development agreement. The other 2/3 of it basically will not. And this again will help to spur expansion of public utilities. It also expands the existing allocation area for us to capture additional taxes for the specific area here. It is in compliance with the comprehensive land use map. Again, we did just recently rezone this, so it is basically a part of the original, has been added to the original PD amendment to the PD ordinance. And again, the comprehensive plan would allow for this type of commercial neighborhood facilities. So with that, like I said, it is in compliance. I need a motion to say that it was in compliance with the comprehensive master plan and that we can go forward.
So no public hearing needed?
No, you do not need a public hearing on this.
One was enough.
One was enough. Okay, so any discussion or a motion, please?
Madam President, I'll make a motion to approve order number 01-2026 and the attached redevelopment resolution, including attachments as conforming to the policies, goals, and objectives of the 2020 Noblesville Comprehensive Plan, amending the allocation area for Midland Point.
Second?
Mr. Bertner,
Aye.
Dr. Forgy,
Aye.
Mrs. Young,
Aye.
Mr. Cook,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson,
Aye.
President Wilcox.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Anything else?
No.
Motion to adjourn, please?
So move.